hesitate to do things with other people
because we're wearing a mask. It will show our vulnerability, a weakness, our human side. Maybe I'm not this perfect, but oh, you know what? I need help. I actually can turn to you. I can look to you. It doesn't matter to me that I'm in my mid-50s and I've been doing something for years. If I think you have an answer that I need, I'm gonna pick up the phone and say, sis, I need help with this. It's the caring about what somebody else will think that stops us from being authentic and getting what we need.
Welcome back to another episode of Women of Tomorrow. If you are new here, thank you so much for stopping and clicking on this video. Women of Tomorrow is a platform dedicated to the success and longevity of women worldwide. So if that's you, you'll love it here. Make sure that you subscribe, like, share, comment, all the things, and enjoy this episode. Althea.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You look so beautiful.
Thank you.
Are you local to Atlanta?
I am. I live here now.
Oh, okay, cool. Where are you from?
I am not from anywhere and from everywhere. I have lived in Indiana, South Carolina, Orlando, Houston, Texas, Baltimore, Maryland, Chicago, Illinois.
Wow.
But my family and I have been here in Atlanta for almost 20 years.
So, wow. Why did you move so much? Is it stuff
Corporate
from
America from childhood.
Yeah.
I was in 3 different schools for 5th grade. So as corporate America moved my father around, we moved around, and I finished high school in Florida, in Orlando, and went to college, Florida A&M University, Rattlers.
Oh, is that why you had that?
I went to college there, but then even while I was in college, we had to do internships in the business school. So I lived in Connecticut and Chicago, graduated and lived in Cincinnati and Jacksonville and Virginia Beach. So just lots and lots of cities.
Yeah. Was there a favorite?
I love Chicago.
Why did I know that?
I love Chicago.
And how many years were you in Chicago?
So my husband is from Chicago, so pretty much off and on and always.
Oh, wow.
And my husband just moved back from Chicago this past weekend.
Oh, wow.
So we were by city, Chicago and Atlanta, back and forth.
So what is it about Chicago? Because
What
I've only
is it
visited
about Chicago?
once as an adult, and I don't think I got the full thing, but something felt good.
I think it is the skyline. It is Lakeshore Drive. It is the restaurants. It's the diversity. It's all of it.
Yeah.
It's just so amazing to me. Yeah.
I want to start off by just finding out, and I want you to, what is it that you do? What is your professional title? Like, what is your work here on? What is your work here on?
What would somebody say? They'd
Yeah.
probably say you're a mystic, Althea. I am, and what would be one word or one phrase? I guess it depends on how you're looking at me. Like, what capacity are you in?
Because you were in corporate,
I was a finance professional in corporate America and left and started a wellness business. And then I was a personal trainer and a group exercise instructor. And then I opened a yoga studio.
Wow.
And for a long time, I was a business owner and a yogi and a meditation guide. And then I started leading retreats. And then that turned into international retreats. And then that turned into entheogen, psychedelics, and plant medicine work. And now I like to call myself an intuitive holistic healing guide.
Wow.
Because I use a lot of my metaphysical gifts to intuit what people need, whether I'm working with them one-on-one or I'm working in a group setting.
Oh, wow. And Zen speaks so highly of you.
I love Zen.
She speaks so highly of you. And I just remember when she put me onto you, and I just went to your page and saw a few of your posts, and I'm just like, wow, she's so warm. Like, your energy.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, very, very warm. What what made you go into healing? Because we were just talking about off camera. Sometimes when the things you ask for, it just shows up. Was this something that happened in your life that said, okay, this is my purpose?
It's interesting. I think for a lot of the things that I do, I did not choose it. I would never have chosen it. And I feel like the universe, the God perception, has shoved me into it. And I do believe for many of us that we volunteered to come back here and play these roles as humans to make some kind of impact or difference in what's happening in the current time. And I think that's what has led me into the healing work. But long before the things that I'm doing now, as I said, the personal trainer, the group exercise instruction, that just seems to be a part of my heart. People moving, having fun, connecting with nature, breathing, perspiring. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And I think being inside closed buildings with all these clothes on and doing the same thing every day to pay bills, to live in a house, to have 2 kids and a dog and a car, I absolutely don't think that's what we're supposed to be doing. I don't.
Yeah.
And as I said to you a little earlier, I think that's a colonizer mindset.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way in a lot of ways, as far as just like it's always just felt like a box from a little girl and being in church and then growing up and then go to college and then mastering this. It was just like, ugh.
So rigid.
Yeah.
So linear. And that's just not what we are. We're so much more than that.
We're so much more than that. But, oh gosh, okay. Before we get, because I do want to talk about metaphysical gifts, because I'm still learning so much about that. But you mentioned something just now about some of us were decided to come back here.
The volunteers.
To volunteer to help humanity, or help me. What would you say when someone like myself and many others are trying to understand the concept of choosing to be here? When we were all, a lot of people say, I didn't choose to be here. My mama brought me here. Now you got to take care of me, or now you got to do this. Help me understand what that means, or what that could mean, or even beginning to understand what that means.
Not all humans are the same. So let's start with that. And you know that as you interact with people, you're like, I'm not like that person, or, oh my gosh, we're so alike, or, oh, I feel your vibration, or, oh, we're in alignment. All humans have a role to play. So there are some humans that are just backup cast members. You notice that, or maybe you don't notice. Some people do and some people don't. People are almost like just in a space, but they're not emoting. They're not doing anything. You might be in a restaurant or in a store, and there could be 50 people and they're milling around, but they're not really feeling or sensing or doing anything. I call them backup cast members. Then there are other people that volunteered. They could be star seeds. They could be light workers. They could be from the Galactic Federation. They could be from another planet. They could be from anywhere. And those are celestial beings. They volunteered in their councils. I know I'm speaking like so otherworldly, but this is stuff that's real.
Yeah.
They volunteered to come back to certain times within the Earth's existence, whether that was 1500 BC or 2,000 years into the future. I volunteered to come back into this human suit, looking this way, with this skin and this hair, speaking this way, living my life. I chose the parents, the family that I had, the challenges and the successes, so that I could play a role in a time such as this. I know that.
How do you get to a point to remember that you chose?
It comes through in many different ways. For me, it comes through in meditation. It comes through entheogen, psychedelic plant medicine use. It comes through in sleep and dream downloads and lucid dreaming. So that state where you're not completely asleep, you're not awake, and you're aware that you're in the dream state, and you can manipulate and get information from your subconscious, from your past lives. There's many different ways that people can get the information. And for me personally, It was through meditation, nature connection, and entheogen use.
That makes sense. Now, does that also mean that in order to use these tools or practices to remember, that you have to be tapped in to your physical body, or you have to just believe in what you're hearing? Or
Sometimes we don't have a choice. It's like, I think about when this first started happening for me very, very clearly. I was simply doing a fast. I was doing a 12-day fast. But the fast was not just food. The fast was electronics. So during the time when we would most likely be using electronics in the evening before going to sleep, just scrolling, watching TV, talking on the phone, I spent 12 days of not using any electronics at night from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I could eat during that time, but I could only eat certain foods. So I had cut out all sugars. I had cut out processed food, fried foods. And so then I wasn't even eating that much. And once we clear our system and we clear our mind, you are wide open for everything to come in. That's probably always trying to communicate with us. But we're so busy in here thinking, strategizing, doing, talking, praying, working, scrolling, that there's no space to let the information come in. It's when we stop everything that everything can come in. And that's literally what happened for me.
Okay. Because I want myself and everyone to learn how to get to this place, like how you were saying, things that are always trying to be communicated, but we don't slow down enough or stop anything enough to hear the communication.
Or receive it.
Receive it.
I always say hear.
Okay. Receive the communication. Yeah, because receive means you actually...
Yeah, because I am clairaudient, so I hear. That's why I always say hear. But some people don't hear. They know. So it just comes to them. They don't know how they know. Or some people feel it. And they literally feel it. Or some people sense it. Some people smell it. Some people taste it. So all these gifts come to us in different ways. I always use the word hear, and I know I shouldn't, because that's my strongest gift.
That's your strongest gift. Okay, so that just made me think of something else. Back to what you were saying, every human is not the same. Now, are we speaking, because I've recently been put on to a teacher, Delbert Blair, and he talks about the different kind of beings, and
there's lots of them.
Yeah, and so when you say this, are you saying on a biological level that when you speak of it, are you speaking on a biological level that humans aren't the same?
Metaphysically, in an esoteric way. I mean, outside of your human suit. So the humans we see all around us, they're in human suits. But beyond that human suit is something else. We have astral bodies, which is the energy body just outside of this suit. So if it were freezing cold in here and you and I were sitting close together, we could feel the heat from one another. That would be in this space. Those are our astral bodies. But then there's a causal body that's so beyond the astral body. And so sometimes when we're talking about like the spiritual essence of someone, we're talking more about their causal body. And when people say they're astral traveling, they mean that the spirit essence of themselves have come out of this human suit, this human body, to move around in other timelines and other galaxies. When you dream, you're doing that. You're moving around into other realities, and then you come back into your human suit to wake up and be back here in this timeline. So when I'm talking about humans being different entities, I'm talking about the human suit wearers. What does their spirit come from? What is their essence? What are they made up of? Is that making sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense intellectually, right? Like, okay, there's different
But in real life.
Yeah, because I think that there's so much deprogramming that needs to happen. Even for myself, who's been on this journey for a long time, I would say it was not too long, maybe 5 years of
Well, time isn't real. So 5 years, you could have an entire galactic experience. And then you could be 15 years and still be where you always were, reading books.
That's so true.
That mean nothing.
That's so true. That's so true. And so to answer your question, I'm fighting through what I've always believed in order to know the things that I feel. And it's challenging.
Which is why I said I had to be pushed into the work. If I tried to do this with my mind, to think it, to decide it, to accept it, to believe it, that can't be real, there's no telling what would have happened. My human self would have gotten in the way. What actually happened is so many spiritual things happened that absolutely could not be, number one, explained, but they also, number two, could not be denied. And if I were the only one experiencing it, that would be one thing. But my husband was experiencing what I was experiencing. My children, who are grown men now, were observing what was happening to me. The fact that I could know things before they happened, specifically, I could write dreams down with somebody's name, their description, what they were wearing, and a year later, somebody with that name, that description, wearing exactly what I wrote down in a book 1 year before, dated, showed up. These are things we can't make up.
Yeah.
When so many people are witnessing it. So I think that's what I mean. It's not something that's going on in here. It's something that's happening in real life that is absolutely outside of the realm of what we would perceive to be reality.
Yeah.
And when that happens for you, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
It's not like you're thinking it. It's occurring. And you then have to figure out, what am I going to do with this thing that's occurring to me?
Yeah. Getting into that more deeply, the metaphysical gifts. And you were saying that more and more the people that you encounter or reach out to you or around you are speaking about their experiences with metaphysical gifts. Can you describe what a metaphysical gift would be that maybe some people are overlooking and just being like, oh, that's just...
Right. Because most people, when they have one, they've been born with it. They're so used to it. They don't know that other people don't have it until someone says something. One of the first experiences for me of knowing that I had a gift, I have all of them very strong.
Okay.
There's one called clair empathy. When people say I'm an empath, they're referring to having the gift of clair empathy. That's when they can sense the energy in a space and they can sense the emotions and feelings of other people. People who identify as empaths, not only do they sense it, but they take it on for themselves, and then they end up feeling what other people feel. And that's why a lot of people feel anxiety, depression, fear, anxiety, and they don't know where it comes from because they're clair empathic. So the way I found out that I was clair empathic, I used to teach yoga instructors how to teach yoga in real life.
Okay.
Not to very fit people, but to corporate wellness participants. So this could be all ages, people with disabilities, people who might be obese, and so they're not able to move the way traditional yoga teachers would teach. And so I was explaining the teaching mechanism, and somebody says, well, how do you format your class? And I said, what do you mean format the class? I wait till I walk in and I see what the people need. They said, well, how do you know what they need? I said, you feel it. They said, no, we don't know what you mean.
Yeah.
I was like, you don't feel things when you walk into the room where you just know what everybody needs? They absolutely had no idea what I was talking about. So then I started paying attention to, how do I know what the classes need when I go to teach? And that's when I started realizing I'm sensing things that everybody doesn't sense. I'm actually reading the minds of the people in the room. At the end of a class, I would say to somebody, so how's your knee doing? Did I tell you about my knee? No, but I just know that it hurts. I didn't know why I knew that.
Yeah.
So now I'm starting to understand claircognizance. I just know things. I would meet people for the first time and I'd say, when did you get that Ankh tattoo on your arm? They'd be like, did you know I had an Ankh tattoo? I just met you. Oh no, but you have one on your right arm. And then I'd have to think, how do I know that? Well, when I went through the fast, it was constant. It wasn't once in a while. It was constant. And that's what led me down the path of researching, what is this? What does it mean? Now I had to figure out, what do I do with it? Because you can do party tricks with it, yeah, but what good is that?
Yeah.
I had to figure out, how do I do my work as a volunteer on this earth with these gifts? And that's when the gifts started teaching me. Go here, do this, learn that, get this book. Names would drop into me that I had no idea who those people were. Or they'd say, go to this country, just go there, just trust us. You'll meet who you're supposed to meet. So I think the biggest part of the gifts is learning how to be obedient.
Okay.
And not getting your own way and say, this is too weird, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. And for people that are struggling with that, to be obedient, because we haven't been taught that these gifts are even real, or should be something that we should prioritize or, really spend time with. How do you encourage or help facilitate that, nurture people when they are maybe noticing their gifts, but they don't know how to devote some time to it, or they're like, I don't got time for this. I got to keep doing this and that. Because it feels to me like we're at a time where, yes, it's coming forth, but there's still a lot of resistance, or still a lot of ignorance around it. How do you help people get there, or get to a starting point?
Well, I like to start with the basics. Just pay attention. There's really not that much to do. Just pay attention. I think a lot of times people are so in here that they're not aware of anything. You know how you drive your car someplace?
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're to a destination and you don't know how you got there. You don't remember the signal light. You don't remember turning the steering wheel. You were just in here. You're not paying attention. Right?
We're an autopilot.
There comes a time when people have to literally pay attention, like stop being in here and be out here. Mindfulness. Pay attention to what you hear. What was that lyric on the radio? What did that person just say? What are those repeating numbers on those license plates? Didn't I just see that on that mailbox? I'm seeing repeating 4s. What does that mean? It's as simple as that. Just pay attention. If nothing else.
Yeah.
Everything else will start to unfold with just that one step.
Of just paying attention. And then also being obedient to...
The obedience part is probably the harder part. When we get a nudge to do something, we're not supposed to override it. So an example of that, you leave your cell phone in the house, but you think, oh, I'm just going to run to the store a mile away to get this. But Spirit says, go back and get your cell phone. And you're like, I'm not going back in there. That would be an example, a simple one of be obedient. Go back in there, get your cell phone, because in 10 minutes you'll understand why you received that feeling, that nudge, that voice, that drop in. Go back and get your cell phone.
Why do you think so many of us ignore that first thought? Like,
because we think we know everything.
We think we know everything. Is it that we think we know everything, or we don't think we know anything and we have to follow someone else's program?
We think we know.
Because I feel like that happens to me. That I've been being more obedient lately, but it's just in this instance where I'm starting to pay attention to, like, oh, that was an actual feeling. That was an actual
was an actual thought.
Yeah.
I heard something. I thought something. I got a nudge on my shoulder. I felt a pull to go back or a push to go this way. My body feels strongly that I should turn left when I always turn right. Why is this happening? I'm going to go right. Don't do that. Go left. There's a reason. Go back and get the cell phone. There's a reason. Now, I'll tell you the other thing. I have children that are grown. They're both in their 20s. But when my younger son was 3, that exact thing happened to me. I was driving him to his daycare. I left the cell phone in the house, but it had taken me so long to get him in his seat and my purse in the car and everything. I was like, oh, it'll be all right. I started the car. I didn't say anything out loud. And my 3-year-old son said, Mommy, don't you need to get your cell phone? And I was like, this is too weird to ignore. So sometimes it comes through when we aren't obedient and we don't listen, it comes through other sources to be like, oh shit, that actually happened.
Yeah.
That was weird for me. I will never forget that. And he's 23.
A 3-year-old. Wow.
That was 20 years ago, and I still remember it like it was yesterday.
Wow. So when it comes to these metaphysical gifts, everyone doesn't have them?
We're back to the humans that are here.
Okay.
There are some humans that are just back up.
Yeah.
They're just floating around to fill space. And I'm going to leave them there. They probably don't have them. The ones that volunteer to come here from other places, they have them. They don't remember. It will take time for them to remember. Or something will have to happen where it comes in. If they pay attention, they will notice it. Because it's too many coincidences for it to not be real. There are some people that are living out their karmic debt. So they're coming back over and over again. They're not volunteering to be here. They're coming back because something happened in the last journey and the journey before that and the journey before that. And so they have to keep learning. They may have some of the gifts or they may not. It just depends on how they're incarnating and why they're coming back and what the thing is for them to learn. Or they may have a lot of it, and that's the thing for them to learn. Maybe they didn't listen in the last life or the one before that. I say listen again. Maybe they didn't pay attention or listen to the nudges, and maybe something happened in that past life where they have to correct that in this one and be obedient to it.
Yeah. When you speak to your clients and on your retreats and people that you are helping, do you are they trying to find out how to use these gifts to be a big part of their life, or maybe be a career path or a way of living? Are they trying to figure out how to use it more effectively?
I think they're doing lots of different things because we're all on a different path. If I asked you, why are you trying to tap into your gifts? What is your answer? My
answer is because I'm not okay with not. It's almost like I'm not as time goes on, it's like, this is not all. There's more. There's no way.
So that's your answer. You're feeling into the expansion beyond our 3-dimensional reality. Somebody else might not be to that point yet. And they literally may be, why can't I get past this brick wall with my career?
Okay.
Somebody else might be, I've had cancer in my body, I'm surviving, and now the cancer is back. Somebody else might have just lost a child or a spouse or a parent, and they're trying to cope with grief and death, and they want to communicate with them on the other side. So there's many different reasons why people are trying to tap in to their gifts and to the esoteric metaphysical ways of how we communicate beyond the 3-dimensional reality that we're in every day.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's beautiful. Because it's just around us. It's just here.
It's just here. And it's always here if we pay attention.
I don't want to miss a thing. So I'm really just going to read what I have here because it's so good in the way that it's laid out. I'm like, your spiritual toolkit.
Oh, yeah, I like this one.
Yes. Our grandmothers and great-grandmothers seem to know how to protect themselves, their family, and their community with words, ways, and wisdom we've observed but didn't fully understand. Let's discuss these spiritual tools.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for me in my life, all the herbal remedies, all the just the little simple things that are resurfacing to help us navigate and soothe and heal is just popping up, and I love it. And I'm excited about it. What are these spiritual tools?
Well, you hit on the first one. A lot of it, I think, is herbal. It's plant. It's roots. So I'm probably a little bit older than you are, but I remember my grandmother. She lived on a farm in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Anything that was going on, she would just kind of disappear into the backyard and come back with things. There was always like a mashing up of something and a pouring in of something else and a cooking of something and then a rubbing on of something. And then before you knew it, whatever you had, you didn't have anymore.
Wow.
It never occurred to me or my brother or any of my first cousins to ask, Grandmama, what you doing? What's that? Because in our era, you didn't ask grown folks what they were doing. Mm-hmm. You stayed out of grown folks' business.
Yeah.
Now I wish I knew that I should have gone out there and watched and asked and smelled it and looked at it and tasted it and watched how she was doing what she was doing. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter because it's all being downloaded again into the beings that are here. So you hit on the first one, plants, roots, bark, all of that is part of our healing. Are there any things that elder women in your family ever said that you remember? Are there any lessons that they ever told you? Any sayings? I'm just wondering. You don't have to remember exact ones, but are there any things that you just remember them saying or laughing?
My grandmothers were feisty, so the things I remembered,
even the feistiness, even the cursing, there are lessons in all of it. So let's just stop with their feistiness. You said my grandmothers were feisty.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Okay. But okay, the things that I remember, honestly, that stood out were just about don't be fast. So I don't know. That's going a different way.
But that's about protection.
That's about protection.
Don't be fast was protecting you. So we are at a point now where anything that's said to young people, it causes them anxiety. You can't say that.
Yeah.
But think about those feisty older women. They said whatever they wanted to say to you.
Yeah.
And it usually had a lesson and a message in there. There was wisdom to it. And it was about protection. Mm-hmm. It was not about judging you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was not about judging. Mm-hmm. It was about looking at the community in which we lived and the time that we lived, knowing what was going to happen to a woman that looked like you. Mm-hmm. That's why they said, don't be fast. They weren't judging you because you're a little fast tail.
Yeah.
They were saying, we know with our wisdom what happens to beautiful young women, to brown women in this city where we live. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's part of the toolkit, your wisdom and your words.
And nowadays we're just really sensitive and soft and can't really.
Mamas can't say anything to anybody. Now, this mama's going to still say it.
Yeah.
So if your feelings get hurt, that's on you.
Yeah.
But if I'm saying it from love. And it's because I come from the era of the feisty women.
Yeah.
Now, the generations that come after me, I have no idea how we're going to operate because everyone is super sensitive. Anything that's said, everybody crumbles and cries.
Yeah.
Some of the crumbling and crying, people are going to have to suck it up. We got to get back to some of the old ways of being able to hear what somebody's saying, but go beyond their words to the intention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is the feistiness out of protection, out of making sure that somebody doesn't come at me wrong?
Yeah.
Like, let me show you all this attitude.
Yeah.
So you don't make the mistake and come to me incorrect. Mm-hmm. Now we have a lot of people who They're a little more mousy. Their voices
what they say,
quiet.
the gentle parenting or the
gentle parenting has its place, but then there's also a need to sometimes be able to speak up. I'm a parent that allowed my kids to have a voice and to tell me why they felt the way they felt. But when I'm telling you something from this wise woman perspective, do you hear me? And if they were here, they'd say, yeah, she's like that. And yes, we heard her. And there was no more conversation. But I'm not going to slap you in the mouth. I'm not going to beat you.
Right. There's a difference.
There's a difference. And so I think we're a little too far in one direction. And there's some people who are still too far in the old direction. We need to meet somewhere in the middle.
For this timeline that we're on right now.
But let's go back to the toolkit. There are also some physical things that people should have in their toolkit. One of them, believe it or not, is tobacco. So
I had some tobacco in Peru.
I know you had some tobacco in Peru. I know you did. And if you were in West Africa, if you were in the Caribbean, if you were in Cuba, it almost doesn't matter where you go. If you're having some type of spiritual rite or experience, tobacco is going to play a part in it. And why? Because it is cleansing and it is protective. If you took tobacco leaves that were dried and got them wet and scrubbed your skin with it, it would be cleansing for your skin as an antibacterial and antiseptic. You could soak it in your bath water and take a bath in it. You could use it on bug bites and it would stop the itching. You could smoke it and not smoke it, but suck in and blow the smoke out around someone to create a protective environment around their aura, their energy, their spirit, and their body. So tobacco plays some amazing roles in our spiritual toolkit.
Wow. Yeah, things like that, right? Is there more to the toolkit?
There's so much more to the toolkit, but I want you to ask questions.
Well, because I didn't want to get too deep into my Peru experience, but I felt like this
you
was
should.
the segue.
It's a perfect segue.
So Zen has told me, a little bit about the work that you do and that you were she was like your mentee in certain spaces as far as the medicine is concerned. And so I know that you have this experience, but I think for me with Peru, I went there for ayahuasca. And I went there, honestly, I went when I did because it was a gift. I was gifted from someone that I knew. They had been gifted to give someone a scholarship, and she gave it to me. So I went probably quicker than I maybe
was prepared for.
Yeah, was prepared for. Yeah. I had known about ayahuasca, or heard about it, not known about it, but had heard about it for some years, but never really dug into it. But, it's just like, oh, this is plant medicine. This is what you do to evolve. And this is what you do to go to that next level, break the ceiling type of thing. Remember who you are. And so I just took the opportunity, and looking back on it, I'm like, I could have done a few more things before I went there.
Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things
before I went there. But I think that the experience was, so I went to, we landed in Lima, then we flew to Antico.
Okay.
And is it no, it's not Iquitos.
Iquitos.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of retreat centers there. Okay.
And then from Iquitos, we drove to the water and then took a boat to inside the Amazon.
Very good.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm a nature girl. I've always been a nature girl, like all in the trails and all that kind of stuff.
That's a different kind of nature, though.
Baby.
It's a different kind of nature.
It's a different kind of nature. And I went in wet season.
Oh.
So for me, I arrived at what I thought was, I don't know why I thought it was like a cute little luxury retreat. Not that I was looking for luxury, but when I got there, it was simple, it was quiet, but I was not prepared for the standing water. It was swampy. And ultimately for me, it was scary.
Yeah.
When I first arrived. Also, what I will say is the people. There was the retreat owner. Then there was the facilitators, the people that worked the retreat. Like, you need anything, tell you about what ceremony we're about to do. Like, those kind of people were there. And then there was also the other people like me who were coming. It was a large group. And it did not feel right. The people, I wasn't prepared for the energy of the people.
Of the participants?
Of the participants. They
what was the demographic
sending them love right now.
What was the demographic makeup?
Demographic, it was mostly I would say about 50% Caucasian, or however you want to say it, white, I don't know. And then I think there was some European, so I don't know exactly what a
lot of men or mostly women?
I would say it's 50-50.
Okay.
It was 50-50. However, what it seemed to me, though, is that these are people that were coming from child abuse, sexual abuse, war veterans,
heavy
drug
trauma,
abuse. Yes, it just felt, it did not feel safe for me to go as deep as I had intended to go or wanted to go, or, So I ended up only doing one ceremony. There was 4 for the 7 days.
Oh.
I ended up doing one ceremony and I left.
Oh.
I left. I was trying to thug it out. I was trying to be like, no, but for me, and before I say this, the facilitators, for me, they seemed like they were about 7 days out of their first retreat themselves. I'm like, I need for everyone to have sat with this or
multiple times and understand what they're doing.
Honestly, that's how it felt. A couple of them were physically sick, so they were sneezing, coughing, and I'm just like, no, this is not what I want. It didn't feel like they could hold me, protect me, or comfort me as I dig this deeply with this medicine that I'm just now.
What was their demographic makeup?
I would say Latino. One of the other girls that was sick, she appeared to be mixed, like black and white. She could have been Latino.
Were they from South America?
They were not. The shamans were. So there was 4 shamans. There was 2 male and 2 female.
That's good.
Yeah. However, I'm just observing because I don't know what to expect, but I know how I want to feel. The shamans to me felt a little tired, a little overworked possibly. I'm thinking of like, how could they be overworked? Maybe this is a facility that is just churning it out. A group, another group, another group.
So there's 3 things I want to say about what you've shared.
Okay.
The first one is every experience is an opportunity for learning. Even when we perceive it to be a bad one or a rough one, we learn some of our best lessons from that. We never forget it, ever. If it had been really, really good, there's a possibility that there'd be some little subtle things that you'd overlook or forget and not revisit. Mm-hmm. So it's okay that this one was like this. Mm-hmm. The second thing is about the safety. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons that I started leading my plant medicine journeys, because they're not just ayahuasca, they're also psilocybin mushroom, they're also iboga, which is the African bush root. The reason that I started doing more of this is because I felt like as African Americans, Afro-Caribbeans, Afro-Latinos, that we are not in spaces where we feel safe. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily safe like, oh, it's dangerous. Yeah. I mean safe because of our stories and the way we want to emote and share what we're experiencing, what we're coming from, and why we're in that place. But also safe in that the way that we move in medicine is very different than other cultures and other groups. Many times the shamans of the Amazon basin are not used to the way people from the African diaspora move in the medicine.
Okay.
And it seems scary to them, and they think it's a little demonic, quite honestly. And so there's even racism in those spaces. We need to keep that in mind. And so when I'm talking about safety, I mean safety from the continual racism that we might face wherever we're from, right? Even in these spaces where you wouldn't think it would occur. And then lastly, the reason that I started putting on the retreats the way I did is because I know that people coming from North America, from a city even in the Caribbean, they are not prepared to go in rainy season into the rainforest on a boat through the Amazon basin or a tributary of the Amazon to these places to do medicine so naturally. And so I am like a nice halfway point. I'm going to take you to a hotel with a door and maybe air conditioning, maybe not, but at least it has a door. With a bathroom. But then I'm still, I know the bathroom is a thing. That's why I'm saying it, right? I'm going to take you to a place that has hot water. Maybe it has hot water. Maybe it doesn't. But at least there's water coming out of something where you can bathe yourself and it's your shower. It's not just one shower for 40 people to share outside in a little, because that's how it is. And a lot of these indigenous communities, that's the way they do medicine. It's not ceremonial the way we do it. Like, let's all sit here at this time. Let's sing this song. It's not like that. The other reason that I really wanted to make sure that the people that are coming to the retreats, that they have this in-between point. It is rural, it's rustic, it's not what they're used to, but it's also not completely in the community of a lot of the indigenous cultures, because that's too much of a culture shock. So preparation is really important. You talked about the facilitators on your retreat and how it seemed like maybe they were new to doing the work. It is very, very important that any facilitator that I have working with me and with the shamans that are serving medicine, and I'm saying shamans, but they don't all go by that title. But just for the purpose of this conversation, I'll use that. The people that are working with the shamans, they know how to best prepare all of our participants. It's rainy season. Here's the kind of boots that you're going to need to have. You need to have thick socks. You need to have a rain jacket. It's dry season. These are the type of bugs that will be around. We're in an all natural environment. You can't wear perfumes and lotions and use DEET bug spray because we're in an eco-friendly environment. So things like that are really, really important. You talk about preparation. It's not just preparation for the entheogen, for the medicine. It's preparation for traveling to this place. And that in itself is a huge preparation, mentally as well as physically.
And I did not I had prepared for about 30 days because they did send lists and say what was going on. I was not prepared for my reaction to things. I was not prepared. And so I don't know what was going on with me or what still lingers, but I was not prepared for that environment, even though
and they told you, they said it's rainy season, there'll be still water, you'll need rain boots, like galoshes up to your knees.
They told us that it was wet season. They said bring boots for hiking, little things like that. But for me, I think I went deeper in what I was experiencing, because for me, it was, okay, I'm seeing this water. What's underneath this water? It was hitting me deeper. It was hitting me in
that's
a
exactly
weird
what
way.
I'm saying. I don't think North American, United States, African Americans are prepared for literal indigenous experiences. I don't think we're ready for that. There has to be a first step. For the people that do that, they're so used to it, they don't think to explain it to you in a way that this is such a departure from your reality that you're not ready for it.
My mom, though, my mom went with me.
Okay.
She went with me just because she was like, I'm going to go with you. She wasn't even really trying hard. She didn't have an issue. So
but
I felt
she's
like...
also, where is she from?
She's from California.
Where's her family from?
Louisiana.
Did she spend any time down there?
She
didn't have to live there. Did she ever go visit family there?
She used to go to New Orleans all the time.
Did she ever go to the bayou?
Probably.
How old is she?
66.
She's seen it. She's used to it. She's felt it. It's not foreign for her.
For me to have the physical reaction, and I say physical because it was hard for me to get it out of my psyche. Let me just explain the toilet. The toilet was a compost toilet. I just don't understand why I'm so freaked out.
Because you're not used to it.
I'm still freaked out.
So let me just ask you this.
Okay.
Had you ever used a compost toilet before in the wilderness like that?
No.
Have you ever spent time in a natural place, that natural, during wet season?
No.
So it was your first time. You have to give yourself grace. You didn't expect it to be like that. Mm-hmm. You've never been in a place like that. When my friend and I went to Benin, West Africa last year, there was I don't know what we would call that. It's almost like a trough. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever seen what like the pigs eat out of in a farm, the trough. Mm-hmm. Well, that was where you had to defecate and urinate outside of one of the locations. And then there was a bucket. Well, the person who went with me had never seen that before. She said, I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to do or how to do it. And so we figured out, you were supposed to use that bucket of water after you did what you needed to do and wash it down. She was like, but there was no tissue. That's right, there wasn't. Mm-hmm. And that's why there's certain rules in certain countries that you don't shake hands with this hand, you don't eat with that hand. Mm-hmm. It's just different, and we're not used to it. And it just takes one or two experiences, and you're like, okay, I got it. Mm-hmm. But that's why there needs to be stages to doing something. And that's literally why my ayahuasca retreats are the way they are. I don't want someone so stressed out by their environment that they can't even have the medicine experience.
Yeah. No, absolutely. If you had been there, I would have felt better.
You probably would have.
That looked, felt, seemed like something that I could trust, honestly. Mm-hmm.
It's good that your mother was there with you.
It is.
Because at least she was somewhat grounding, especially because she wasn't freaking out.
Yeah, she wasn't freaking out. I think that her not freaking out made me, I don't know. It was a hell of an experience. I learned, I'm grateful for it. I learned that it's okay for me to have certain things that I like and things that I don't like. Because for probably about a year, I was like, I could live in the wilderness. I could do this. I could do that. And I was like planning a life like that. And then having that experience is like, whoa.
Pump your brakes. Just a little bit.
Okay, pump the brakes. The actual ayahuasca ceremony that I did have, I felt that I did receive.
Good.
It wasn't a wild experience like I know some of the other participants had. Mine was pretty much calm.
Was that your very, very first
one?
My
very, very first.
So we tend to find that the very, very first night of medicine, the body needs a chance for it to settle in. It would have been nice if you could have stuck it out for day 2.
Okay.
Because then the medicine would have gotten into your system. You would have added a little bit more to it on night 2. You would have had 1 or 2 cups, and then you could see, like,
it wasn't
how is it
happen
coming
with
to
those
me?
Folks. I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to do it.
And our minds can block that. We can absolutely stop our experience by letting the mental come in and say, I don't feel safe. I don't want to do this. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, I did. I absolutely did.
Did your mother drink?
She did twice. She did the second ceremony.
Oh, good.
So for her, her experience was different from mine. She pretty much said that she didn't receive anything, but more so that it was very abstract. She was just seeing colors, she was seeing patterns, she was seeing faces, but there was nothing more than that for her. But this was like, I mean, she's just now, just even knowing about this and just trying, so she was, I guess, further from any type of drug or idea of that being medicine and using it, because my mom's a child psychiatrist, so her whole life was around pharmaceutical drugs, diagnosis,
right, synthetics. Yeah. So can I say something about that?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that now it's coming more to the awareness of African Americans that these entheogen, psychedelic, naturally occurring properties exist and that people are using it for healing. And you said that your mother's a therapist. So I work with a lot of licensed therapists that are going through psychedelic assisted training now.
Okay.
Or they're working with ketamine, psilocybin mushroom, and they're doing it in a clinical way.
Okay.
I feel like the African American community is going to be last to the table again. All of the other cultures, not only are they aware of it, but they know the efficacy of it. And for the African American community, because of our trauma from drugs and the war on drugs and what happened to us through the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, the unequal incarceration, the longer sentencing, if anything looks like, smells like, sounds like a drug, we don't want any parts of it. The sad thing about that is I feel like we're going to miss a tremendous opportunity to heal not only ourselves, but our children to come by using these naturally occurring healing compounds like ayahuasca, like iboga, like psilocybin, like ketamine in a clinical sense. Because ketamine actually comes from the mushroom, just like psilocybin, but the form that's used in clinical use is a synthetic. And it's usually used in hospitals, like emergency rooms for pain. And people are like completely gone when they're on these pain meds. But when we use it in a clinical mental health therapy way, it's a much smaller dose and it's monitored in a way that people can actually go through their own healing from mental and emotional issues. So we have some huge opportunities to heal our trauma with these different medicines if we give it a chance and if we don't fight against it because of the drug epidemic that we went through over the last 4 decades.
Yeah. I felt a little bad because I think my mother would have stayed the whole 7 times.
Oh,
days.
If you weren't ready to go.
Yeah, but I also gave myself permission to say, to make a choice, and to not fight against what I was feeling, and say, this is not the end. I can always revisit this. I can do this again. But yeah. So it was an experience, so many different things.
Everything is an experience.
Yeah.
Everything is a learning opportunity and a learning lesson. And like I said, we might perceive an experience as bad or traumatic, but there's always something to learn from it in the end. And for sure, you won't forget it.
Yeah. Never in a million years. Never in a million years. The real conversation about how to bravely and boldly find, define, and live honestly in authenticity. Okay, so authenticity is a huge thing for me right now. I've really been practicing it, but it just even brings me back to the decision that I made to leave.
That's right.
It was authentic to
being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I could have, kept and came back with a story that said that I conquered it and I conquered my fear and I did it, and I was scared. I wasn't ready. And so I just honored what I was feeling, and still practicing that not having shame for my outcome not being what I thought it would be, but just being like, this is how you feel. Take care of yourself.
But you know what? In us being authentic and having these real experiences, we're also being able to tell stories to people that can help them. And that's what you've just done. You've told a story that now other people know there are some environments that may not be safe or right for me. It's not about judgment. And that's where the authenticity comes in. When we're not afraid of judgment, but we know the why of how we're showing up. You're showing up that way on purpose. You don't want somebody else to maybe go down that path. I think there's when we're talking about authenticity, I'll go back to the earlier example you gave of you taking the herbs and then you not wanting to tell anyone that things weren't working right. That was living inauthentically. Because my question to you is, why didn't you want to tell anyone or ask for help?
My ego. I look at it as my ego.
But why? Go deeper. Don't say just your ego. There's a reason why. What was it that stopped you from calling somebody to say, hey, I know you specialize in this. Here's what I'm feeling.
I will say there was maybe a couple things. I didn't call anyone because I didn't know who to call initially. I desperately did not want it to be anyone in an office with a lab coat.
Okay.
So
we knew we didn't want it to be someone clinical.
No, I for some reason I had I had this harsh wall up against that. And both my mother and my sister are in that space. My mother's retired now, but I had advocated so long for not using that type of person or system as a resource that it was too much to bear, or it was a thick wall there that wasn't allowing.
But don't you interview people all the time who work in that space?
In the clinical space?
No, in the natural healing space that know about plants and herbs.
I do.
It didn't occur to call on them?
Well, I didn't feel maybe close enough.
Okay. So that's the point I was trying to get to.
Okay.
In the authenticity, when we're not being our true authentic self, we hesitate to do things with other people. We're all wearing a mask.
We hesitate to do things with other people
because we're wearing a mask. It will show our vulnerability, a weakness, our human side. Maybe I'm not this perfect, but oh, you know what? I need help. I actually can turn to you. I can look to you. It doesn't matter to me that I'm in my mid-50s and I've been doing something for years. If I think you have an answer that I need, I'm going to pick up the phone and say, sis, I need help with this.
Wow.
Because I have I just don't care.
Yeah.
It's the caring about what somebody else will think that stops us from being authentic and getting what we need.
I cared about what someone else would think. I cared about what it meant to me for who I am. Like,
exactly.
Have you been living a lie? Do you have to go apologize to this person and that person now? It was deep.
It's funny you say the thing about apologize. When I went through the spiritual awakening years before I even touched any plant medicines, one of the things the spirit told me to do was to go and apologize to anyone I thought I had hurt, that I knew I had hurt. I had to hunt people down. I had to find numbers. I had to go on LinkedIn and pay the premium fee to be able to send a message to people that were not in my network.
Wow.
so that I could find people I had worked with in corporate like 15 years before and say, hey, I remember this situation and I just wanted to apologize. Do you remember me from blah, blah, blah? And they're like, we don't even know what you're talking about.
Wow. Yeah.
They didn't know what I was talking about, but it was in order to live an authentic life and to truly get past my healing stage so I could be in a place of doing my work, I had to do that.
Yeah.
If we can't apologize to people, if we can't have honest and real conversations, we're probably still wearing the mask, quite honestly.
Still wearing the mask. So the mask just really shuts you off.
It's just a protective mechanism. We're all protecting ourselves from embarrassment or hurt or judgment or whatever words you want to fill in there, but it's all protection.
It's all protection. And a part of me feels like it was deep judgment towards myself.
It could be.
Feeling like, wellness was something that I could be certain about, confident about, proud of, something. Something that I offered the world, I brought to the table, and then having to just let it go in the sense for it to be what it needed to be in that moment, in that time, and I was holding on very hard by myself.
But guess what? It's your vulnerability that actually touches people. Your perfectionism doesn't. That's not helpful. It's your weakness. And it's your honesty. It's your tears. That's what touches people. That's what endears them to you. That's what makes them trust you. If they never see that, you're just this perfect being up on a pedestal that they can never get to, and that's not helpful.
Yeah. I'm learning that right now. I'm learning that, trust me, because when I was telling you earlier, back in 2023, when I was on my mom's patio and I said I want to learn empathy. I will not learn it, but remember it, because I've always, as a child, I was a sensitive one. I cared about people. I was more sensitive to them. I'm making sure they're okay. And then over time, I had become, rigid, and so now when you're sitting here and you're going through this struggle that feels crazy, then I started reflecting on what I had asked for. How did I get here, and what's the lesson? And so many things are being revealed. Like you were saying, the universe will take you at every stop you need to stop at, so that you can feel it and you can know. Because there is no other way. For me, I wouldn't have learned what I'm learning now without every single experience.
That's the power of the psychedelic medicines.
I feel like, is it still working? I know I only sat with it one time, but
yeah,
baby.
It's in your system. It's DMT. We have DMT in our system. We make it naturally, so it just connects to all of that. That's how the psilocybin mushroom works. It's the mycelium. It's the connection to all things. It's part of your synapses, and it matches our DNA and the way our brain moves. So you have to emote.
Yeah.
You have to be.
Yeah.
If we're not authentically being and feeling and doing and letting people see that, what are we doing here?
I know.
That's the way the plants work. All the roots are underground, like connecting and twisting and turning and touching, pollinating this one and blossoming. We operate like nature, and we should be doing the same thing. We can be beautiful. We can put on our makeup. We can have the perfect outfit and the jewelry and the hair and the cologne and the perfume and the nails but sometimes we need to take all of that shit off. Okay. And just be.
Yeah, just be. I'm I'm in the middle of it, but feeling like I'm approaching
To just be.
Yeah. What would you say when the authenticity comes up? When I would say like so say like I run TmrO in this company, and this is a new thing for me. I've been doing it for 5 years now, and I had lost a huge part of my, you said emoting. I had stopped because I didn't know where it fit into having a corporation, wanting it to scale to a unicorn company, bringing in a staff, a team, bringing in partners, raising money, all those things that I had to or decided to take on because I wanted to establish a company that meant something. And then slowly but surely, the mask comes on because, okay, I don't want to look soft. I don't want to look weak. I'm a woman. I'm going into tech. I'm going into this and that. And so slowly but surely, it did become, I became, I guess, kind of a shell of who I once knew how to show up as. How do you do it? How do you have a team? How do you be a leader, be in this business world that is, set up a certain way? How do you remain authentic, give space for yourself and all that stuff and still keep it going?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. I wrote a book in, I don't remember what year, but it was called 20. And it was I wrote it on the 20-year anniversary of leaving corporate America and having my business. Interestingly, I had already started my spiritual awakening at the time, and it came through me during that time. The book did. And it was like, write these 15 principles down and tell people this is how you should be running your business. It's not about scale and numbers, and that goes back to the colonizer mentality and the way that colonizers run their big business. It's devoid of feeling. It's devoid of emotions. The staff and the people that work there are just people that they're just numbers that can be gotten rid of at any time.
Yeah.
And that worked for big business.
Yeah.
But for the energy of how we are as spiritual beings, that doesn't work for us, and it leaves us feeling very empty, especially if you have the DNA and the energy. That's that. Some people are that, but if you're this,
Yeah.
you feel it, and you can't operate the way a colonizer does. So you asked me, how do I do it? My staff is like my family. I fire them and I rehire them when they get their stuff together. I fired my son. You're not doing the job, bruh.
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop me from saying, now let's go on this trip. Let's have dinner.
Yeah.
What's going on in your life? But I'm not going to pay you for this job because you're not doing it.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to separate business from personal. And when I'm business, I'm very business. And then business has an end time, and then it's time to be personal. I have times that are hard in business. I have financial ups and downs. We had to pivot during COVID. We lost contracts. But that's when I turn to the family that's a part of the business and say, now what are we going to do to bring this back? I have a staff. My family doesn't work for me anymore. We found that that's the best way to do that. And I treat my staff like humans.
Yeah.
I see them. I give them paid time off. I pay bonuses. I do all that. But at the same time, they give to me what I give to them. A lot of care and empathy and love. And together we want to see our company blossom. Everybody wins. But the only way that I can do that is to be authentic. They get all me all the time. And they're the ones who push me to turn it off and go in when the time is necessary.
Authenticity has been a huge word. I've been hearing in the community.
I don't think everybody knows what it means, though. I think it's a buzzword, and I think people are like, yeah, be authentic, be authentic. I don't think people know what that is.
Well, how would you describe it for yourself? And
for me, it is literally taking off the mask and honestly being vulnerable with people around me that might not always see it.
Do you have to, in order to be vulnerable, would you suggest that you need to have a certain amount of self-awareness, self-worth, confidence?
For sure. I think that there has to be for sure a self-awareness. If you don't know who you are, how are you going to authentically interact with others in that way? So I tell people you need to spend some solo time. You need to get off of all social media. You need to take a vacation, and it needs to be a solo trip. Because if you do it with somebody else, you're going to be thinking about them during the trip. You need to remember, what do you like? When do you wake up without an alarm? What do you really like to do when there's nothing to do, when there's no appointment? You don't know until you get to know you again. So I think that's part of it, the self-awareness. It's not even about getting to the point of confidence or interacting with anyone else. It's just, who is this chick? Who's that dude? Who's that person? Getting to know them again.
And knowing that whoever it is, whatever you find to be true, is that is what it's supposed to be. It doesn't need to be.
There is no such thing as supposed to be for me. Because supposed to be means like there's a thing. It just is.
That's just what it is. But I guess what I mean is it doesn't need to be anything other than what you're seeing.
It just is what it is. Take it or leave it. It's not for other people. It's for self.
So being authentic is for self. It may enhance your interactions with other people. Or maybe it'll just enhance you.
It's really just for you. You're going to magnetize to you what's meant for you by the energy that you put out. If your energy is inauthentic, you're going to magnetize inauthentic experiences in people.
Got it.
Now, I do think that every person needs to have a tribe where they can be 100% authentic. Everyone does not need to have access to your authenticity. So I think we can code switch. The way that I'm going to be authentically with my tribe is probably not the way I'm going to be if I go to pick a country, the corporate office of the president of the country. I'm not going to be that way, right? That we have to have some common sense about it too. But there has to be a place where we can be authentic.
Got it.
And if we don't have that outlet, that's where the dis-ease comes in and the illnesses start to come in, because we're just not being honest and true somewhere at some time with someone.
So it's just all built up and tight and locked and pushed down, and
to the point where we eventually forget who we are and we don't even know what we're doing. Why are we here? Why are we here?
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna take those jewels with me. The authenticity is really just for you, just for me. My
just for each one of us. And hopefully you've got a close tribe where they really appreciate and love your authenticity, and they're authentic with you, and you all enhance each other.
When you don't have that tribe, because a lot of women that comment on Women of Tomorrow platform, when we talk about being single mothers or friendships and things like that, a lot of them do feel completely isolated from their family.
It's a painful feeling.
What when it comes to that, what's the starting point?
I think sometimes just being in a certain place, a certain event, like what are you drawn to? What's your hobby? What's your passion? What do you authentically like to do. Go be there and just feel what happens. Magnetize, put out an energy, go with the flow. Don't talk yourself out of something. Just see what happens. We hear all the time people say, I have enough friends. I don't need any more friends. You might need some new friends.
Some new friends.
You might. You might need
up.
some new friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had to change my palette of friends.
Yeah.
In maybe the last 5 years.
Speaking of that, and this is not something that I had written down to speak about, but when you say change up your friends, loyalty, that's a word that people talk about. And then I look at it as, okay, yeah, it's great to be loyal until it backfires, or until you're just loyal just to say you're loyal, not because there's no reciprocity, there's nothing there, but you're just going to be loyal. What would you advise women, when they've been trained or, programmed to stick it out? You're a reliable person. You're a reliable friend, ride or die, day one. Like, that's such a big thing.
I agree.
There's a badge of honor for people to say, I'm loyal, but it's like you're loyal to a fault because you're dying inside and you're not growing, or, what would you say?
I think this goes back to our authenticity and taking that solo time to figure out, what does my personal heart want and need? Sometimes we're so busy. My husband said this yesterday on a Zoom that I was leading. We're so busy giving grace to everyone else that we're not treating ourselves the way we treat other people. And he was absolutely right. So I think that same person that's saying, oh, I'm ride or die for everyone, but I'm dying inside, you need to go sit down with yourself for a few days. Don't answer the phone. Don't reply to the text. Don't respond to the email. Respond to your thought, to your feelings. Reply to that text. Reply to this call for help. And whatever that heart says, then you need to craft what is going to be your next course of action. Take time. Don't rush into anything. I think we're always in a hurry to do things, but time is so not real. It's just a figment of our imaginations.
Wow. Yeah. Answer your own heart's call. Yeah.
That solo time, that's the answer for everything. Any question, go sit by yourself. The answer is in here. The answer is in here. It's not outside of us.
I know.
It's not my advice. It's everybody's own advice. They just need to go sit with themselves to hear it.
Yeah. I love that. I believe we have time to kind of tap into one more.
Okay.
One more topic. While we're here this time, because would you come back?
Yeah, I'll come back. I'm honored to be asked to come back. I'll wear green for orange and green.
I want to. Let me see. Because this is something that. Okay.
Is it a good conversation?
What?
Do you think this conversation is good?
It's been good for me.
Yeah, I hope that it will resonate with people.
No, absolutely. I'm trying not to think of sound bites, but I've already heard some as you were talking. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna start with that. And I kind of just want to talk about something that I've never really don't really talk about much.
Okay, that'll be good.
Comparing clinical versus shamanic use.
Okay, no.
The rise of the womb holder, unlocking our DNA
you
code.
know that's going to always be one of my favorites. Okay, but what are the other two? What are the other two?
Healing our mother lineage.
Oh my God, we just did that last night. It's so powerful. Okay, keep going.
And then unfiltered conversations about imposter syndrome.
Okay, we kind of did that one.
Yeah,
so let's do, I love that rising womb holder one. But we can also talk about healing the mother lineage while we do that.
Okay. So
what do you think?
Put those together. Yeah. Let's see.
Do they resonate for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel like it's two things that we have here that are so exciting to talk about: the rise of the womb holder, unlocking our DNA codes, and healing our mother lineage. So I'm really drawn initially to healing our mother lineage because for me, what I have been feeling with all the, you know how you were asking me, why do I want to tap in? A part of me feels like I have my bloodline in me that I'm working. Like, it's the life that I have lived. It's like, it don't require all this, girl. Like, why are you digging so deep? Because it's not like in comparison to a lot of other people who's had trauma that has led them to this path, I wouldn't say that I've had that experience.
Can I say something really quick?
Okay.
I think that we have been so conditioned to think that like you're learning and growing and doing because you made it through this trauma. All of us don't have to have trauma to have powerful stories to tell and to be able to empathize with people and to be able to grow and be a light. So I just wanted to say that it is actually an honor for me to say I haven't had a lot of major trauma in my life. And I'm proud to be sitting with you someone who can say I've not had major traumas in my life.
Yeah.
But that does not mean that we don't still feel, we don't still hurt, we don't sometimes struggle, that we don't get sad or angry or frustrated. We have a right to still feel that way without having major trauma in our life. And we shouldn't have to feel apologetic about that.
Okay. Thank you for that. Because, I went through a period of time where it's like, I got to be homeless in order to really deserve.
What is that? No, we need to stop that.
Yeah. Okay. And so... Which part are you laughing at?
I gotta be homeless.
I mean, really, I was trying to find the depths of hell so that I could.
What can I do to prove to the people
prove that I'm worthy of,
That's part of our authenticity. Your authenticity is that you've led a really beautiful life. You've had some challenges, but you didn't perceive them as traumatic. Somebody else might have perceived your challenges as traumatic. It's all about perception, point of view.
Perception. I've always been very, very sensitive to the stories of my mother, my father, my grandfather, my grandmothers. Hearing their stories, hearing what they have gone through, brings me to tears almost instantly. So a part of me has always felt like the lineage is within me, and that I'm doing some work that maybe they didn't do in their lifetime because heavy emotions. And so that makes me think of this topic of healing the mother lineage.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm dealing with, or what would you classify as what we are going through when we are healing that mother lineage? Does it have to do with not having a great relationship with your mother, or does it have to be that?
It really doesn't have anything to do with us per se, like our present day selves. It has to do with the great grandmother that we don't even know. It has to do with, this goes back to the topic of the rise of the womb holder. So let's just perceive that anywhere from 30,000 to 100,000 years ago, women have been taken out of the rightful roles that they've had as a leader in spirituality, as a leader in the household, as a leader in the marketplace, business and entrepreneurship, as a leader in political strategy, as a leader, removed from that place for tens of thousands of years. But go all the way back to the original humans with me for just a moment. The oldest bones have been found in 3 places: present-day Ethiopia, present-day Ghana, present-day South Africa. That means that African women were the foundations of all humans. Think about that. The mother of all humans is currently perceived as the lowest on the totem pole. In all areas. So when I say there's a rise of the womb holder, I mean there's a rise of that original ancient African woman. And when I say we have to heal the mother lineages, we're healing all of those women that were brilliant, fierce, intelligent, warriors, wise, spiritually connected beings from other galaxies that were stepped on, raped, murdered, cut off from their children, made to feel less than, cheated on, stolen from, snatched from their homes. That's what I mean. I don't mean my mother was mean to me, my mother spanked me. I mean, we are healing a lineage of powerful women, whether it's your father's father's mother's mother's mother, or it's your mother's mother. That's what we're healing, because we hold those pains and those traumas, those disconnected families in the cells of our body. It's in our subconscious. We don't even know that we feel it, but it has to be healed now in our current human suit so we can step into the rise of the womb holder. If you continue to have fear religiously, if you continue to have fear of men, if you continue to have fear of being the main breadwinner, if you continue to have fear, whatever those fears are, you cannot step into your full feisty power. You feel me?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why they have to go hand in hand. We have to have honest conversations, very vulnerable conversations, very transparent conversations with the women that still exist in our families, if we are in a place to be able to do that. Not everybody can do that. Some of us have very good and safe boundaries up between us and the women that raised us and the women in our family. And I say hooray for that bold step of authenticity, of saying, I can't be healthy in a relationship with her.
Yeah.
So I want those boundaries to continue to exist. But for those of us that do have healthy relationships with our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunties, we need to sit down and ask some questions. We need to understand some things we don't know before it's too late and they're no longer with us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Because we are rising up.
Our DNA is awakening. Codes are unlocking. Now, when I first started saying this about 5 years ago, nobody else was saying that. It is amazing to me to look on Instagram and see someone I don't know in another country say, the DNA codes are unlocking in women. You're rising back to. Oh my God, that's the same thing I downloaded. That's the same thing I got in my dreams. That's the same thing I meditated on. That's the same thing that came to me in my mushroom ayahuasca iboga journey. I know that it's real because it's not just coming to me, it's coming to women around the world, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of age, regardless of whether they have given birth to a child or not, regardless of how they identify. That's why I always say womb holders and I don't say women. You can give yourself any title, you can be in any category you want. If you were on the earth with a womb inside of you in the reproductive system to have children, there's certain DNA within your body because it meant that you could give birth to nations. That's what it meant. Now, if you want to be, give me a title.
A male?
A male. If you classify yourself as a male, but you have the ability to give birth to nations within your body, honor that. That is a gift. And there is no title that will take away that power and the DNA that's in you.
I have a question about that because I think so many women believe that the womb is simply associated with the actual physical act of giving birth.
It is not.
Is there, what is
It's portals.
Okay.
It's a window. It's a gateway. That's why in a lot of the esoteric arts, when they talk about the chakra system, and a lot of them, they say the most powerful chakra system or chakra wheel is at the solar plexus. It's at the navel. The navel is what gave birth, what gave food, what, blood and cells created the other being, right? But we talk about this being a powerful fire creator for all beings. Cis men, cis female, doesn't matter. It's still a powerful chakra of creation. That's where that fire element comes from. That's like you burn off in the ashes and then the phoenix rises from that. Like, it's such a powerful space. It's a portal to all creation. It is the window to the beginning of time and the end of time, and time is not real. So the beginning and the end and everything in between is all as one. Wow. And it's right there. A galaxy within.
Yeah. One more question about that before we to be continued. The woman rising up, I'll say the womb holders rising up, I think it triggers the non-womb holders. As if, almost kind of like how the racism thing kind of goes, where it's like they assume
it's
that
a trigger.
if we learn our power, then we're going to start oppressing or denying. What is that about? Do you
Yeah, so, I think it's so interesting because the people that know me know that I'm not challenging men. I'm trying to create equality and balance. You can't have equality when one group is down here and another group is up here. You just can't do work like that. I can't even reach your hand for us to do this thing, right?
Yeah.
So there has to be a rising of the woman, because the woman has been so depressed and suppressed and repressed that she's not even present. She doesn't even remember who she is. That's why we're having this whole authenticity conversation.
Yeah.
So if we can get her back into herself and bringing her powers up, do you know how powerful we would be if we were able to link on an equal level? And I'm going to be frank here, with Black men who also know their power and their authenticity and what they bring. It is mind-blowing to me what could happen. But everybody has to get on the same page. This is not a competition.
Yeah.
It is not.
It's just like a piece to a puzzle.
Yes, we've got to link up.
Yeah.
We have to. And we cannot link up with one person being over another. We've got to be side by side.
Yeah. Side by side we stand. Do you know that song?
I don't. I like it.
No, I can't remember
like
the rest
it.
of it, but it was a song from my childhood. Speaking of linking up, thank you for linking up with me today.
I honestly appreciate you inviting me onto your show. I love all of what you're doing. I love everything that you put out, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much. I want you to come back, so we're going to figure that out.
Okay.
But I want you to look at this camera and just tell the people where they can find you, what you have going on, any offerings or anything that you want to share.
Yeah. I am super excited that we are coming up on a full moon around Mother's Day. And so we have a couple of full moon activities going on, and you can find out everything I have coming up at AltheaLawton-Thompson.com. And I am Althea Lawton-Thompson on all social media platforms. In June, we'll be in Jamaica for a plant medicine journey. Then later on in June, we'll be in Peru for a plant medicine journey. And then we're taking off to West Africa for an Iboga plant medicine journey. So check me out, AltheaLawton-Thompson.com.
Hey, okay, perfect. We got to put this one out next because she put the dates.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I
it's
sure
okay.
did. Well,
No,
you could cut that part off
that's
and just
fine.
say
I
I'll
can
be.
I can do it.
Okay.
I'm in charge.
You are in charge.